Of course they are. That's exactly correct. Everybody is copying and pasting from Apple. So we are going to be...
They can't get an interview.
Oh, boy. Let me just turn off this background. Hey, everyone. Here we are, Final Cut Pro Radio TV Live. And we have to my... I don't know which direction it is. I'm pointing towards Brad.
No, hey.
Brad Olson, my friend from Off the Tracks. We worked on Off the Track together. And there's Serena Catania. Everybody knows Serena. And directly below me is Tony Gallardo from Texas, right?
Howdy, howdy. That's right.
From Texas. Is it hot there?
Oh, yeah. 104, 103, 105.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. That is really, really hot. So I got a call last week during Final Cut Pro Radio TV Live, and I couldn't discuss what the phone call was about, but this morning I could. Final Cut Pro 10.4.9 has been released. Listen, this is a major update. I mean, it may not be, 10.5 category, but boy, it's just like 10.4.4 from what we're reading on the Apple Newsroom. I mean, all the articles are just basing their information off the Apple Newsroom. So just go to Apple Newsroom for your information. So proxies, and more proxies.
Oh, finally, yes. Proxies
That's
upon
great
proxies.
news. That's great news.
H.264?
Yep, inside of Final Cut.
Right.
Motion is updated. I'm going to follow Richard's advice and just start updating things without backing up.
No, just update without backing up. Listen, I've been posting little hints for the last couple of days. I've posted to back up your Final Cut Pro application on Twitter and some other things, and people are saying, "Oh, I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of looking on the App Store," and I didn't say anything. And then, of course, here it is, Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, which is fantastic. Powerful new features, enhancements to proxy workflows. It's just fantastic. Let me... Right. Yeah, we're going from the top. So Final Cut Pro with powerful new feature. Now, interestingly, they're still calling it Final Cut. This drives me nuts. Look in this first paragraph. It says Final Cut Pro 10/X. Right below that, it says just Final Cut Pro without the X. Why aren't they consistent one way or the other with that? The first two paragraphs, they do this all the time.
I know you got to talk to their PR people.
I've been.
Maybe?
Let's see. Scroll down to the bottom of here.
I was just looking. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Starlane Mesa is who you have to talk to. Starlane. Yeah. There you go.
I've talked to a few people. It's just.
Well, I'm talking about the press conference, the press contacts at the bottom of.
Gotcha.
You can harass them. Why is it both?
Well, what? Yeah. Why not have? So one of the questions that I want to talk about is, because now they've put all these features in 10.4.9 that we've been asking for, proxy enhancements for years and years and years. What is the red? What does it say about red and ProRes or something? I don't use red.
Metal updates for Red Raw and ProRes, and also the Canon Cinema Raw Lite.
Okay.
So there's significant performance improvements with new metal-enabled plugins for Red Raw and Canon Cinema Raw Lite. It's great.
And you can also play and edit.
And even more interesting is ProRes RAW camera settings such as ISO, color, temperature, exposure, offset are all controlled from the inspector, which is what we wanted from the beginning.
Yes. Absolutely. So on Final Cut Pro Radio, the Facebook page, I posted, back up your Final Cut Pro application. I've been posting it for 24 hours. And that's all I've said. And then somebody chimed in this morning, I'm tired of going to the App Store. I said, okay, well, that's fine.
Well, here's a feature I know nobody was interested in. Editors can also apply audio crossfades on adjacent clips. I don't think nobody
wants
ever
that.
asking for audio.
Nobody wants that at all.
Audio crossfades?
A shortcut for audio crossfades.
That seems like
We're
going
teasing.
into crowd control too soon or something, right?
Yeah,
Well,
that is much appreciated. How many times have you
Yes.
pulled those little guys out and hit the? Yeah, I mean there was a keyboard shortcut for crossfades, but you still had to overlap them.
Yeah.
Right,
And now you
right.
can just
You know where I can see that working? I can see that working if you're working with music and you've got your outro and your intro and you don't quite have volume yet, and
you can just dialogue editing.
Yeah, it's
getting
one
rid
of
of all
those-
those pops.
It's one of those things that you don't realize. I think it's going to save you so much time, accumulatively, to add up because of just opening it up and moving it
Yeah.
and fading it.
Yeah, and it, absolutely. And over and over and over and over again. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right, Brad, actually, because I actually had a situation a couple weeks ago where I had an editor helping me with something and I wanted a dialogue edit real quick. And he had the material and I wanted a few words taken out because they weren't accurate. And he wrote back and said, I can't do it. The sound's too close to each other. I brought it in, expanded it, cut it, but then I had to crossfade a little bit to make, to get rid of the pop. So yeah, maybe we're talking too soon. Maybe we are going to like it.
Well,
we're definitely going to like it.
We definitely wanted it.
Being sarcastic.
We're definitely going to like it. The point is 9 years to get a crossfade. That's my point.
It's here now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We survived. We wanted that drink of water across the desert, and we got it.
We got it.
The only thing I've ever been told about things like this is you have no idea how much development happens on the back end to do something simple like that. So we and I know that they're very responsive to what we ask for. So there has to be another reason.
Yeah, it probably broke the magnetic timeline or something. Like it just.
I doubt that.
Started. Well, it can be a finicky thing to program because clips can fly out of place when you don't have everything locked into tracks.
Yeah.
So maybe doing something as simple as a crossfade on audio just like jacked up something else. Who knows?
It looks like Compressor is going to work with LUTs more.
Yes.
That's
I've been asking
nice.
for that forever because imagine, especially now with the proxy workflow.
That's needed, yeah.
Because the proxies internally, it's like, I can select a custom, or I can select a certain resolution in terms of quarter, eighth, or whatever they are.
Right.
But you could also create proxies with LUTs applied in Compressor, and then switch over to your original media in Final Cut through proxy workflow, like an immediate relinking. So that's huge.
Amazing.
I like that because it's something that can be done across state lines. It's so easy to I'm going to generate proxies over here. I'll put them on Frame.io. You guys grab them, and then eventually later you'll get the high resolution files, and you can switch back and forth. I think that's nice. I like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much in this update. It seems like it's maybe not 10.5, but it's a really, really good feature update like 10.4.4 was. So it's been well worth waiting for, and I'm so glad they got it to us during the end of the summer. This is the tail end of the summer in the U.S. We've been waiting for it all summer.
Yeah, and you can use it. You can link media with third-party applications, with XML. So for people who use PostLab, I think that's going to be huge. I'm totally excited for that.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of in the next few days we'll be getting more information. Of course, Ripple has their tutorials out on Motion already. I saw that. So
Lumberjack will work with it.
Have they done any specific updates for it, or it just?
Yeah, it's ready. You can use the XML no problem with the new version. So.
Oh, fantastic! Fantastic. That's what we like hearing.
This is going to make remote workflow a lot more comfortable. When you're managing large files, and especially with collaboration now in the time of COVID, moving those files is going to be a lot easier with this proxy backdrop.
Yes,
we have now.
I mean that's what I'm excited about.
Well, this is a good thing too. If proxy media is not available for some clips, users can adapt workflows to display either the original or optimized. So before it was like all or nothing. You've either got a proxy generated or you don't. But it's like, okay, I have an original one, and I can look at my proxies at the same time. It's a lot more flexible.
Yeah, and you can did I see that you can media manage your proxies as well?
There is proxy relinking.
No, I thought I saw something where you could actually
look at my
consolidate
proxies.
Asset management
proxies
tools
can
like
be generated by
Pro and PostLab.
Proxies can be generated by third-party applications. So yeah, plus, yeah, I don't know specifically what you're referring to.
Consolidate proxy media. Never mind.
I like the social media cropping ability. I've been wanting that for a while. This is going to make life a lot easier for me.
And for Tony.
This is huge. Yeah, I'm really curious. I need to download it to find out.
So that's a curious one, because that's the one they demoed at WWDC, right? They showed that. That's one of the few things they showed. So is it just using AI to track a human form? Is that what it's doing, and trying to make the best guess?
Well, it's saying it's using machine learning. I'm hoping it's smarter than just that too. I'm hoping it can find
dominant motion.
Dominant motion intelligently cropped, so not necessarily person.
But my questioning is like, that's great, right? Like, okay, we're all going to machine learning. We're all going to machine analyzing and finding the thing that's important in the frame. But what about, like, how does it handle? Is it where we can re-edit it? Like, for example, if it gets it wrong, you can?
You can change what the AI based what AI intelligence has said is the best shot. Because everybody, a lot of people now are doing these shots where your actors are in low frame and you've got a lot of headroom.
Yeah.
I don't think AI would give you that shot instinctively, and if you wanted that shot, you'd have to adjust the frame. The other thing that they're going to do that I really like is they're going to help us know where to place our text, so it's not going to get cut off when we do variations for the various sites. So it helps you place the text,
like a title safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, video editors can also add a custom overlay to guide them when placing text and graphics with a non-landscape frame.
Is that per platform, or?
I assume just based off of whichever, because it says conform to convert them into square, vertical, or any other size video, perfect for platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. So I'm assuming it's based off of whatever your crop zone is.
Okay.
And I was thinking, I would like titles to be even smarter than that, where you could just say, hey, I want this to be in the upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right, kind of like Compressor doesn't necessarily marry, or when you do like I think it's like the time code or the title overlays in Compressor. But if you like switched aspect ratios, it would just move those into those quadrants, like a quadrant-based title instead of just an exact position.
What you just said
wonder if it does that. Do you think it does that? I haven't.
It doesn't sound like it does it right now, but they just have the custom overlay. But that's how I would like to just say, hey, I want this to be title safe, low, like center, and it just, no matter what my aspect ratio changes, it moves it there.
That would make sense.
You know what would be kind of cool is if they could use machine learning, if they can find the dominant motion, use that for your titles to say, put my titles outside of this. Don't have it overlap, or keep it in a certain area. I don't know. It's kind of cool.
It absolutely is.
Let the machines take over.
The
Bye, Richard.
transcoding from 8K Red Raw to ProRes
Richard
422 is kind of nice. Remember we were bitching
Yes.
about that the last time I was on the show.
Richard, did you go get us some drinks?
I had
Or
to
you-
close the door because I heard my girlfriend was talking on the phone out in the other room, and I have a noise gate on this mic, so it cuts it out for the most part. But I didn't want to, just in case. So this is exciting. Listen, first off, I want to say thanks to the Final Cut Pro team.
Absolutely.
You
Thank
guys
you.
and gals have done a fantastic, fantastic job. This is a great, great update. I can't wait to get my hands on it after we get done this live Final Cut Pro Radio TV live.
Yeah, Serena, I'm excited about that as well. Using metal for red raw, especially the mention here up to 3 times faster on a MacBook Pro. So I mean, I've been living off my MacBook Pro for the past 4 months, so I'm pumped about that actually.
And tell us it's just faster? Is that what it's doing? The new improvements in Final Cut? It processes red faster.
Yeah, new metal enabled plugins for Red Raw and Canons, and transcoding 8K Red Raw is up to 2 times faster on a Mac Pro and 3 times faster on a MacBook Pro. So
Now
we heard about the metal plugin from Red, I think last year.
Yeah.
We've just been waiting for it to actually come out.
right.
Well,
Right,
these
exactly.
guys have been busy. This is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
This
It
is a
absolutely-
lot of work.
Now, the one thing I didn't see is
Blackmagic Raw.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Tony. What you're
killing me.
involved with Blackmagic somewhat. I mean, not that you know anything of the inside, but do you think there's not a technical holdup, is there, with Blackmagic Raw and Final Cut? You think it's political or
No,
something?
I think it's technical. Oh, sorry, you're
Technical.
asking Tony.
You
No,
think it's
either-
technical?
Either one. No, you too, Serena, because you work with Blackmagic.
I think
don't
the
they-
two companies get along really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I asked about that to the little birds all over on the street, and I was told the companies get along really well. That's all they would say.
They definitely
But-
do.
So there has to be something that's going to take a little bit more back end development to make that work. I don't know. I may be completely wrong.
Don't
Well-
they have an open SDK, Blackmagic?
Blackmagic does for Blackmagic Raw, but I think that's so. I don't know. I can only theorize on this, but I will tell you that over the weekend I was bringing Blackmagic Raw files into Premiere, and it did not work as well as they do in
Yeah.
Resolve. So I think that one thing to consider is that Apple's very, very picky about things working and performance being really good.
I would agree.
And I think before Blackmagic Raw would be in Final Cut, they would want it to be as solid as Red Raw or ProRes Raw is currently, and that might be a taller order to fill, because the one in Premiere, it doesn't work. Like you can bring it in, it'll play,
it's clunky.
but the performance is clunky.
Well, but it's also true that Canon Light Raw has been super clunky in Final Cut. I mean, you
Oh.
could get it in, but trying to play it, inconsistent and adding
I haven't
color
played
correction.
with the Canon one.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's probably not as bad as how B-Raw is in Premiere, but I would much rather play with Red in Final Cut than Canon Raw Light.
Now, is the Red plugin, is that developed by Red or is that developed by Apple or a combination? Do you guys know?
I don't know.
I'm sure it involves
That's right.
both. But Red's the one who makes the plugin. But I think, I mean, I'm sure that it's tested and everything before they're allowed to roll out with it, internally.
I wonder how much money passes hands when one company uses software that's been developed by another company to enhance their product.
I don't know. I mean, you
curious.
think Red
They're not going to do it for
Red has
free,
an
right?
incentive to let Final Cut editors use their
Yeah.
plugin in Final Cut, so I wouldn't. And also, Red releases a lot of free software. They sell very expensive cameras, so I think they.
Yeah.
I don't think they would. Apple or them would charge each other for that
But
privilege.
do you think Blackmagic would? I don't know.
No.
Probably coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
have to buy-
speaking of which, I haven't had mine yet.
You
I
haven't?
can't talk.
Get
I
some
can't talk.
coffee.
Blackmagic, when they announced Blackmagic Raw, Grant said that it was an open standard and that anybody could implement it. So
Yeah, they want folks to. Yeah.
Okay. Even
I
competing with
just
Resolve?
well,
that?
I mean, I use Resolve and Final Cut together, so I don't see it as so much as a competing applications. I see them as companion apps for my workflow. I just actually shot a whole feature in 7 days with a friend of mine. It was insane, but we shot on pocket cameras. He had a 4K, I had a 6K, and I ended up shooting ProRes RAW because I just didn't want to deal with transferring.
Right.
Oh, really?
I want to edit in Final Cut. So, I mean, I would have probably considered Blackmagic Raw if it worked in Final Cut, but for what
B-RAW
this
is
is,
so efficient, though. It's just so small and efficient.
yeah. But when you get to 6K B-RAW compared to 4K ProRes, you're
Yeah.
closer. You're closer. So you're right. If it was the 4K camera and I'm shooting 4K B-RAW, that's going to be much more efficient than the ProRes.
Yeah.
But then when I jump up to the 6K, I kind of lose that efficiency. And I did tests where I did 4K ProRes HQ versus 6K B-RAW. Like I didn't even think I went to Q0, and I brought them both into Resolve, and I scaled up the 4K. Same shot. It was like of a bookshelf, well lit, lots of little letters and details to zoom in on. I zoomed in like 600% as much as I could, and I checked off and on the video layers in Resolve, and I'm like, I can't
see the difference.
Yeah, like I can't see any. And maybe if I had a different lens, I don't know. But
Well, I think you might have had a 12K bookshelf. Is what I'm reading is that you had a high resolution bookshelf. No, I'm just joking.
There you go.
You might see it if you're in a theater.
I
Now,
don't- actually,
Tony,
theaters
you
are
and
mostly
Serena
projectors.
are both shooting B-RAW?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I haven't shot a frame since quarantine started. The
Really?
longest time in my entire life that I have not been on a set.
I've been shooting cocktail videos with my B-RAW Blackmagic
Right,
camera.
right. Well,
No,
yeah, I forgot about that.
I have to do something. Maybe I'll shoot hummingbirds or something. I don't know.
But my question is, are you using it in DaVinci then, or are you going to Final Cut?
I'm going to Final Cut.
So you're transcoding to ProRes?
I'm doing both. I'm cutting in Resolve and then also just transcoding and cutting in. It depends on what I'm doing and for what type of project I'm doing, and is it just me or is it my editor or is it those type of things. So I'll bounce back and forth between the two.
Okay.
But
Because I'm
shot
sure
some stuff at the safari park of storks and white birds against the blue sky and against a very dark background, so I could just test the resiliency of the frames, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was amazing. I had details in the bright whites and I had details in the really dark blacks.
Oh, I love B-RAW. Yeah, it's great. Super efficient.
Yeah, I'm
But it needs
looking
to be in Final
forward
Cut.
to working with a version of RAW. I mean, of one of the versions, either ProRes RAW or B-RAW, depending what kind of camera I get. Now, look, I don't need a camera. So don't anybody try to talk me into buying a new camera, okay? I got a GH5. I got the iPhone 11, but I'm looking at that Sony A7S III because of the low light. And it's, you know what they did? The A7S II had so many things that I didn't like. Non-articulating screen, a clunky menu system, all this stuff. And it's like they took all this stuff from the GH5 that I wanted and they put it in the A7S III. So other than the fact that this sounds funny, it only shoots 4K. That's the only, because everything is 6K nowadays, it seems like.
I think they did a really good job with that.
They did a fantastic job.
Not trying
They
to go
did.
crazy and design something bigger. Just let's do this really well.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I love my A7R3.
You have the R3?
I do, and it's great. I love it.
So we got a comment. Scott Markowitz says there's no new version of Apple Motion. Is that true?
No, there is.
No. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think there is. Yeah, because Ripple
3D
Training.
models.
Ripple
Sorry,
Training
Simon.
did a tutorial. I think there is a
Yes.
new version of Motion. Absolutely.
They're saying here there's a built-in library of 3D models in the USDC format for use in titles, generators, effects, and transitions.
So can you only use that USDZ format?
Let's see.
Can we bring
I
in
think
some
that's their
OBJs?
library.
Yeah, it says creators can import third-party models or choose from a built-in library of USZD format. I don't know. I imagine it supports more. It doesn't. It just says their models are in the USZD format.
That's
DZ,
huge.
USDZ format.
A new
For use in
stroke
titles,
filter.
generators, effects, and transitions. Yeah.
New stroke filter is going to be interesting.
I think
can-
it's really cool that they mentioned you can use behaviors on 3D objects for rotation, and that is actually pretty interesting. That's kind of cool.
Richard,
Yeah.
you should give us some homework and we should go away and play with the new versions. Bring it back.
Oh
Well,
man, so yeah, this stroke thing is interesting. I could imagine that being good for a graphic looking design thing.
Some motion graphics, yeah.
I like the idea though that you could use the 3D models with the replicators and emitters lights
Yeah,
cameras. That's pretty cool.
yeah. There's a lot of, I mean, 3D. You think 3D models, and you think like, oh, visual effects, but there's a lot of motion graphic stuff that you can do by bringing in 3D models, like having a phone come up and fan across, open up, and I think that'd be kind of cool.
So I guess the Ripple training folks can get their kids Christmas after all, because people are not going to have to buy all this new training from Mark and
New training.
Steve. Yeah, because there's been a while since I think anybody's probably been buying their stuff, just because I imagine when the new version comes out, that's a huge boost for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I just realized, you know how you're always supposed to pick up cues? They've been selling their Final Cut Pro tutorials for $10 each.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Oh, that's
Many out.
a clue went right over my head. I went, oh,
Yeah,
that's
kidding.
great.
All on clearance.
Come down.
It's like when they start selling cameras really cheap, a new one's coming out.
We're
Right.
on to you, Scott, Mark, and Steve.
Didn't the Lumix just come out with a new version?
They're making an announcement on September the 2nd, I think. It's the
Oh, sorry.
it's the new they've already publicly announced it.
Okay.
It's the new, it's like between was it S1R, S whatever it was, and it's a full frame, but it's supposed to be smaller. So I'll be curious what they're doing there. Now, one of the things is that the Sony A7S III has a full frame, and that's one of the reasons that it has such great low light. However, Sony does low light better than anybody, right? It seems like it.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, on a practical basis, how often do you really, really need that?
Right. That's absolutely correct.
One. And number two, for me, I have 4 Sony cameras, one and the 5th one that's been retired. For the kind of work that I do out in adverse conditions, bad weather, cold, extreme heat, the Sony cameras are just not as robust. I'm thinking about going back to Canon.
Well,
I don't know.
There's always pluses and minuses with all that
Sony's
stuff.
going, no, don't do it.
Don't do that. No.
I don't know. I like the Canon color out of the camera a little bit better than Sony, but that's just me. I'd have no problem with any of those cameras, though. You want a Panasonic, a Sony, a Canon, a Blackmagic,
Right.
a Red, an Alexa, go for it. Whichever one,
It's about the content.
just make it look good. Don't upload your footage in like saturated log format.
Ew.
Just don't do that. Make it look pretty. Speaking of, this is my really clunky segue because I just had a thought. So you can add the LUTs and compressor now to log encoded footage.
Mhm.
I just thought of a workflow for finishing for that, which might become a potentially new standard. Rather than get a SDR master or an HDR master, you could get a log master. Chioni's been pushing this workflow where you put the display LUT at the end of your color correction chain.
Mhm.
So you could turn that off. You could export a log master, and then you could send it to compressor, and then you could apply whichever LUT, HDR, or SDR that you want for deliverables, thus making your footage making your master a little bit more robust for like a future HDR format or something. If you grade it in HDR, like his theory is this: if you take an HDR LUT at the end, and you do all your color corrections, your balancing, whatever, then when you want to make your SDR master, you just swap that out for the SDR LUT.
I remember him saying that. Yeah.
And I've actually tested that, and it works. It works pretty good. You still may want to customize your LUT for your delivery output.
Yeah.
But
because you might get some intense clipping.
Brad, I love the way
no, you
you
wouldn't.
are
If
just
it's in
so
log,
specific.
if it's in log format, you wouldn't get clipping.
That's true.
I
love the way you test everything. I just pick up the cameras and start shooting and see what it looks like.
I mean, it could be a future, but it could be a future deliverable request. Hey, we want a master file in log. Just so that we can. It's color corrected. It's ready. We want this in log because, the way that the HDR tools work now is you can take an HDR master, and then you can put the HDR to SDR in Final Cut. You can do that effect, and then you can tweak it a little further if you need to.
Yeah, they need to get all the displays and all the different types of HDR and everything synced, and we need to find some way so we can master the displays properly and move between broadcast and internet and back and forth. Because
I'm looking down the end of the pipeline and I'm thinking, okay, how are we going to export these projects? What formats are we going to use for permanent archiving? Do we export a huge monster all in with no LUTs or anything on it, and then the way you want it to look as a director? What do you do? That's interesting. I wonder what the TV station.
I mean, I would definitely, before handing off a log master, I would definitely test what does it look like in PQ, what does it look like in HLG, what does it look like in SDR, and then be like, okay.
That's kind of like the benefit of using like Resolve color management, is where you can unify all your files coming in from your different camera platforms, and you're working in a unified color space, and then you just tell it at the end, okay, this is theatrical, and this is TV or Rec 709.
Sure.
So it's kind of like that in a sense, where you're just mastering in one, and then you just tell your transform output.
Oops, sorry.
Go here.
And then your producers open up the file in the library and they have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah. Or they put the wrong. It gets flagged with the wrong
lid on it.
Yeah.
Richard, you've been through this when you have to go to the archives and pull out footage that's 30, 40 years old and you have to integrate it into a new show.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking if you could archive a version that doesn't have any of the color correction on it, that's just Braw for the future editor, are you saving them work? And then do a second version that's got it the way you want it to look. I don't know. I'm just always thinking
my thing
workflow.
Is it would be color corrected. It just wouldn't have. But I just realized something too. You know how, for example, in BRAW, you can apply the LUT as metadata.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So maybe the file is log, but your LUTs that you rotate between are metadata that are incorporated into that master file. So when a producer opens it up, it says, "Oh, I know you're looking at it on this display." Boom, display LUT, the correct one, and then you don't have to guess on the back end.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that I was curious about is the cropping, the whatever it is for social media, for the vertical videos.
Yeah.
When I saw that at WWDC, I thought for sure that was going to be an Apple Silicon feature. And here they put it on the Intel version.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be, because of whatever the advanced...
They were advertising it.
Yeah.
Final Cut is running on Apple Silicon.
Speaking of that, we do so much work where we have to, we end up taking it and distributing it on all the different social media platforms and in different slices and different versions. We may do like a 30-second commercial, and then we'll do a 15-second version, a 6-second version of that. And sometimes they only want to feature, half a message or a message. And they end up changing. It's not like we don't just do a copy and crop. We actually change the content a little bit and change what we say and whatnot. But I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to, this is kind of stupid, but master in a square format and when I shoot stuff specifically, I know what's going to be for an ad, because then you can move quickly between
Sure.
wide
Sure.
and vertical.
Yeah.
Quibi did that for some of their shows, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
No, I think the square format is a great compromise between 16 by 9 or 2 to 1 even and vertical video. It's a great compromise. So this gives the when people say, well, why do you need 4K? Why do you need 6K? This is the reason.
Yeah.
Because if you're cropping a slice out of a 4K video, you still have nice high quality. But if it was HD, you wouldn't have it. So one of the other things is adjust ProRes RAW camera settings such as ISO, color, temperature, and exposure offset using new controls in the inspector.
Yay.
So we finally got some ProRes RAW camera settings in the inspector. This is a big update. I'm very pleased. 10.4.9 doesn't really do it justice. I mean, no, maybe it's not 10.5. That's not what I'm saying, but it's a big update, just like 10.4.4 was. I'm very, very pleased.
Do you think we'll see more folks shooting with ProRes RAW now that they kind of know that they have these controls available?
I think if they need that, the thing about ProRes RAW, in ProRes, it's still a larger file size. So if you need, to do the post color and stuff like that, absolutely. Films, if you're doing film work, absolutely. Social media, no, I don't think you need it for social media so much.
I'd be surprised.
So, Richard, do you think if we update to this version, we're going to be compatible? I mean, because I have to bring in a lot of projects. I always worry.
Well, first off, don't update until you save a copy of the current version of Final Cut.
Oh, whoops.
Oops.
There goes
Brad,
the idea.
I've been posting that for 24 hours.
I had the latest. I think I have the latest version.
I've been ignoring that advice for 9 years. No, that's not true.
Well,
For the
here's
last 5 or 6 years.
who was it?
I'm with
Chris
you.
Hawking, 6 months ago, was looking for somebody with Final Cut Pro 10.0.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
I had it. I went back on my old MacBook Pro, my old
I'm sure
1 inch
I've got
thick
it
MacBook
somewhere.
Pro, and it was sitting there, so I had a copy of that.
Chris is just digging into all the files that he's
Exactly
not
what he was
supposed to.
doing. Exactly what he was supposed to do. I didn't give it to him because I know that's not supposed to be what you're supposed to do, but I had a copy.
I'm with
Did
you,
we
Brad.
talk about? Just update. And then if it doesn't work, complain later. I can't
I
believe
close
it
my
doesn't
eyes.
work.
Here's another look. This has couple major features, and then it has these small things. Use a pop-up menu above the timeline to close the project open in the timeline, or clear the project history.
Yes.
That's good.
I'm so tired of those backwards, forwards arrows. It's just like I lose track, and sometimes the project will disappear. It won't be there anymore. I don't know why.
Well, like if you open a compound clip, then your other projects that were that way are gone, and you're like, oh.
And if I have 3 or 4 open, is it right or is it left? I don't remember. I got to keep switching back and forth.
you could hold down that little
I know.
arrow and it'd tell you, but then you didn't know. Then you have to check the right way. It wasn't great.
Do you guys end up with a lot of snapshots?
Yes.
Of projects, sure.
Sure, I do all the time. But
Sometimes I just duplicate the project and don't worry about a snapshot if I know there's not like compound clips and stuff in it.
Right.
But if you're using compound clips, good idea to.
I'm a
Yeah.
compulsive snapshot. Yeah.
And I also
Yeah,
use backups for
I end
Final
up
Cut
with-
Pro.
God, I keep knocking the stand. I
Is
always
that-
end up with a lot of snapshots.
Does that replace your the compulsive behavior of just the saving that you would do
Apple
in like
S,
Premiere Resolve?
Apple S.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Make a
Here's the
change.
thing about this. But
After
besides
I'm editing in
that,
Premiere, I go to Final Cut and it's all dunk, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Right.
that's right.
right. Well, you can. No, the thing about Final Cut up to this point, I don't know if it's changed, is you don't know when it's going to save.
Well, it does save everything you do, but you're talking about the backups.
The backups, but if you crash, it doesn't go back to the same timeline you were on. It goes back to some weird place.
May not do that, but 9 times out of 10,
Yes.
actually more than that, 99 out of 100 times, the very last thing I did before it crashed, it'll be there.
Yeah. I
Sure.
Yeah.
Unless it crashes on the something that I'm doing at that moment and it crashes,
Right.
but the very
Well,
last
and it-
thing that was
Previous
executed,
click
it
is
saved.
what I usually.
It
yeah.
always crashes when you're in the zone and you're working really, really fast. and you've made
Right.
a lot of changes, and then all
Don't
of a
work
sudden-
that fast. Don't work that fast.
Stop
It's a
working
speed.
so fast.
Final Cut has a speed limit. Okay,
Yeah.
obey the speed limit, Serena.
Do they
That
really?
okay. But
Oh, come on,
for me
radio
No.
at least,
driver.
No.
crashes are rare. When I was
Yes.
on Premiere
Yes.
the other night, it crashed 5 times,
Oh,
and it was just like a constant thing. In Final Cut, it's not often that I have to deal with that. And usually I push it to do something that it's like it's doing a background render and this and that, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep pushing you, and then it's like, sorry. I'm usually like, yeah, I know why you crashed. I'm sorry. I didn't follow the Richard Taylor speed limit, I guess.
Well, yeah.
gonna start posting those signs up everywhere.
You know what? I've been shooting with what's that app that Filmic Pro has that where you
Pro?
No, the one that has multiple cameras. Double Take recently.
Yeah, that's
And I really, really, really like that because I shoot with my iPhone and I'm interviewing somebody from the front, and then I just put the camera back on me, so I have a choice of going back and forth. So when somebody, instead of hearing a voice out of nowhere, they can actually see the person talking. I really like that. I've set up some projects with that, and it's worked out really well.
That's kind of cool.
Now your walkabouts in town are with the Lumix, right? Or is that
No,
with your iPhone?
no, I have
It's all
that
iPhone?
Lumix is dust. It's covered with dust.
Oh,
It's not.
nice.
It's not. No, I love the GH5, absolutely. But it's so easy to take the iPhone, and I have microphones configured with it, and I have this is the best interface for the iPhone. It's the Rode SC6-L. It's a Lightning interface, and it does a great job with audio, with getting good quality microphones. I'm going to do a tutorial on it. Haven't got to it yet, but yeah. And I have stands, and I have different size selfie kind of
Gimbals.
sticks that I can. Yeah, I have a gimbal, and I have other things, different size. But this weekend, I went and I filmed these people that are cleaning up our local water source, our Liberty Lakes, and I followed them around through the trails and everything as they were cleaning it up. And I did the double take, and I can switch back and forth. So it also helps if you do the full screen with them, and then you cut to I do a smaller screen with the double take, so I can do that for a cut as well, rather than just a hard cut. It helps transition.
Nice.
Did we talk about audio crossfades live? I can't remember now if we did that before.
We
the
just
chat.
mentioned it, but tell us about it. I see that's Audio Crossfade in Final Cut Pro 10.
Yeah, so they've got editors can quickly apply audio crossfades on adjacent clips in one simple step, which looks like it's Option T is the default command.
Okay.
I think that's the option symbol. No, I don't know. Yeah,
Just a little squiggly bracket.
yeah, and then it looks like what it does. It's not like a chunky transition that you would pull from the transition menu. It looks like it adds some time to the left and the right, and then adds the crossfades in one kind of move. So rather than click, drag, drag out the fade, drag out the fade, you just hit one control and boom, it's done.
But that makes
Or
it
one
great because
command.
you're not locking a transition effect on it, because you can
Right.
still move the clips around if you needed
Yep.
to.
Right.
Or
Right.
go in there and adjust that fade if you needed to as well.
I think it's absolutely the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Because I think Mark and Steve had a little hack before where they took a crossfade from motion and they got rid of the video aspect of it but left the audio fade. And so they
Right.
say that it's an audio crossfade, but then it would be a chunky, they call it chunky, but it'd be that
clunky,
it'd be
yeah,
that
it was-
transition.
I like
Yeah.
chunky. Go with chunky.
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 Well, yeah, it's a
Chunky.
chunk of a thing on there that kind of locks you in, whereas this is much more elegant. It's like
Yeah.
5
clean.
moves in one. Because you don't even have to double click on the clips to open up the audio components. You're just boom. And
Which
it's
saves
done.
time. It's going to save so much
Richard,
time.
here's the answer to the question you were asking earlier, clarifying a Final Cut Pro library can now be relinked to proxies already
Yeah.
created.
Yes.
That's what, yeah.
That's huge.
That's
It is huge.
Well,
This
especially
is
for like today where you have to pass stuff back and forth across Frame.io or
Yes.
PostLab or whatever.
yes.
Man.
Frame.io definitely has some things that have happened with this update.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about them later this week. I'm going to do a couple more of these during the week. I'm going to dive into Final Cut Pro myself, and then anybody wants to come back on, you can come back on. So Garrett says the Apple server is overheating. Update is running slow.
That's
I
great.
already updated Final Cut Pro to 10.4.9, but I also saved a copy of 10.4.8, of course, before. I know Brad didn't. Brad just throws everything away.
I've been oblivious.
Richard, I
the last
know
few days.
if I'm missing a copy, I just email
Call
you
Richard.
and you'll send it over.
So Brad, how's the
have to do
6K
that.
with low light? How is it doing with low light? Have you tried it with low light yet?
So, I mean, okay, so you're talking about 6K B-RAW or 6K? Because I mostly
Whatever.
shoot 4K ProRes on my Blackmagic camera because I don't like transcoding. I'm looking forward to the day when I can bring 6K B-RAW into Final Cut, and
Yes.
Absolutely.
for specific projects, maybe I would play. I've played with it. The low light. So if you zoom in all the way, you can see noise and low light footage with Blackmagic, but it's so high res that when you put it, like you put 6K on a 4K monitor, I
Right.
find it's very, very fine. What I've found on the Blackmagic Pocket cameras is it has a native. They say they have a native ISO 400 and 3200. And I find that when you're in that 400 zone, it seems like the 800 and 1000 is the upper limit of that.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
do not want to shoot at 800
No.
or 1000 ISO. It looks
No.
super noisy. But
Yeah.
when you jump over to 1250, you're in the 3200 zone, and that actually looks pretty much as clean as like 640.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 3200 seems a bit too noisy to me. But if you use a little bit of denoising, I'm sure it'd be fine. But I kind of live at typically everything at 400. If I need to push it a bit, I'll jump to 640 or 1250.
Mhm.
And those are kind of my 3 ISOs on the Pocket that I live at.
I'm in the same thing, same exact thing. 640 and under, or 1250.
Yeah.
So has anybody shot with that 12K? What
Serena,
is
they sent you that day, right?
Yeah.
Serena has two of them.
yet.
She's shooting on for YouTube on with it.
Yeah.
See, I'm still of the opinion if I had the 12K camera, I would probably shoot 4K
6K.
max 8K. I think
Okay.
it's 12K, 8K, 4K.
Okay.
But you can shoot 4K RAW on it. And I think before we were talking about why 12K, and we were talking about the 4 different pixel sites, the white, red, green, and blue.
Yeah.
So that gives you 3K, 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 which should make it a really amazingly clear 4K and a really good 8K. And then, of course, you can do 12K. But I think where you want sensors, the reason why you want sensors to get to 16K is so that you could have that YRGB pixel array, and there's no algorithms, there's no demosaicing. It's just full raster 4K, and it would be the first truly 4K sensor that we'd ever have. So we've kind of been cheating up till now. We're big cheaters.
Yeah, I think the win for Blackmagic
Absolutely.
is that this is their chip.
Yeah.
So that to me is the big
Who
win.
who saw that coming?
Yeah.
I mean, what a incredible feat that they did there. So they did the chip, they do the camera, they do the software, they had the complete workflow straight on through.
Yeah.
So
You
Brilliant.
guys are not going to believe this. I just opened Final Cut.
yeah.
Mm.
It automatically updated to the new version.
You have automatic updates on their app
I
store
thought
turned
I
on?
had turned them off.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's in your preferences.
You
Yeah,
just
I
moved
know,
up.
but I thought
You just
I
moved
turned
up
them up.
beyond Brad.
I'm now the proud owner of 10.4.9.
It's like a self-driving car. How did I get to the store? You need more groceries.
I thought I turned that off. Oh well.
I always make sure that's turned off. But I updated. I made copies of my Final Cut in Motion and Compressor yesterday. So,
Man, I better check the Mac Pro.
well, the other thing is I have
Turn the
a
internet.
MacBook Pro that's still back, not even on Catalina. So that hasn't been
This is
updated either.
This is my MacBook Pro. It's on Catalina. And, oops, I now have 10.9 Final Cut.
So what do you think is going to be the first silicon Mac?
Wait, whoa. Back up. You have 10.9 Final
No,
Cut?
10.4.9.
What is in 10.9?
4.9.
Okay. Whoa. Serena's from the future.
Hey y'all, I need to bounce. I
right.
have some calls I gotta get on.
Thank you, Tony. Good to
Thank you very much,
see you.
Tony, for
Pleasure
stopping
seeing
in.
everyone and
Bye,
talking.
Absolutely.
Tony. Nice to
Tony,
see
do you want to plug your drinking show?
Oh my gosh, I'm drinking right now. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I'm making these cocktail videos with my favorite cocktails, and it's on my Tomiga Works YouTube channel, and I have one getting ready to come out. Shot on Blackmagic Raw. Looks gorgeous.
Is that right? 4K?
Yeah.
4K?
6K.
6K?
It's
Okay.
on YouTube. It's gonna be 1080. We're not doing that.
Right,
but,
right.
But yeah.
And how can people contact you on Twitter?
On Twitter, I'm at Tomiga2.
There you go.
I'll post it there as well, so you guys
Absolutely.
make the drink and tell me what you guys think of it.
If you make a nice
Awesome.
tea, I'll try one.
I might have to do that.
There you go. I love iced tea.
All right, y'all. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Bye, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Bye.
Gotta take
Take
Tony
in
off.
just a minute myself. It's nice to see you guys again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to
Well,
see people in real life sometime. 2022 is that what we're looking at?
I gotta tell you, I'm getting out of the house. I don't care what I have to do. I'm gonna get that new camera and I'm gonna just get in the car all by myself and drive somewhere and shoot because I'm in withdrawal.
Oh, I shoot almost every weekend. I shot a little documentary last weekend. I'm going to shoot somebody else. It's local stuff. Local
Just
stuff.
don't drive north, Serena. I hear it's on fire. So
My daughter lives in Folsom and her in-laws are in Reading. And she says there's ash everywhere. You know what I worry about, you'll understand this, Richard, is remember when we went to Cupertino a year ago and we were just after those big fires and Philip and Greg and I carpooled together. We were driving through rural country and the horses and cows were just covered with ash. And that's happening again. And I think about those poor animals. They can't go inside and turn the air conditioner on.
Well, that's true.
Well,
Their lungs are going to be permanently damaged. It's very sad.
These fires are so big that where I'm at in Utah over the weekend, it was covered in smoke from California. Like that's how much fire there was, which I can't remember any time that's happened before where fire from 2 states away has caused smoke to.
Wow, that's incredible, Brad.
It was really thick too.
The other thing that's happening is the dry electrical currents. The lightning is striking, and it's the lightning when it strikes. The electrical hit is in some places as long as a block.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because of all the dry conditions and the heat. And so the electrical strikes are quite dangerous, and people are getting struck by lightning.
Well, they said it was thousands. It happened very quickly. So, yeah. So I'm a little disappointed that the FCPX Creative Summit isn't happening. That was my favorite event of the year. Well, what I mean is it's not going to be in person. Of course, they'll have something probably virtual, but that's the one that I really look forward to every year. So now I'm still thinking they might do NAB next year because Vegas can't survive without people coming there.
No.
Yeah, it might be downsized. And we'll see if there's vaccines or how many people.
Right.
You know, or what restrictions there are. Maybe they won't let people over 60 in. Well, not you, Serena. You're clearly younger than that.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess we'll see with what's the event in January they have, the commercial one, consumer one?
Yeah,
CES. Yeah. Maybe they'll do that.
CES, IBC, NAB, the Creative Summit, and all the other smaller conventions. I don't know. Exhibitor Magazine was sending out a survey. They're trying to figure out what's happening in terms of the convention space in 2021. I would bet that a lot of the companies have realized that they're saving millions of dollars by not going in. And I think the in-person convention business is going to have to rethink the way they do business or they're going to die.
Yeah.
But Vegas, you have to go to Vegas in order for Vegas to make money. You have to go to the hotels. You got to spend money in the casino. You got to physically be there. They can't survive on that stuff.
Well, it'll be a fun ghost town for post-apocalyptic movies in the next few years.
That's true. That's true.
I want to get back to some in-person stuff. It is definitely killing me to not be able to go to places to see you guys. You know, it's
no, absolutely. I mean, that's where we met Brad and Serena as well, between NAB and the Creative Summit. Serena, the Creative Summit was last year, the first time you were there?
That was the second time.
Second time, okay.
Yeah, I hadn't been going, and I miss it. I'm going to miss it. Brad,
Right.
when you were shooting your movie, were you wearing the masks and social distancing, or were you?
So we were like a 5-person crew and 2 cast people. The makeup person would always wear a mask when she was applying makeup, but we were just kind of like, I don't know. We were around each other but it was a tiny, tiny crew that nobody that I'm aware of was sick and has gotten sick.
So when I...
Yeah, it's a narrative. It's a romantic comedy thing with just 2 actors, 2 locations, a lot of... In fact, we were shooting mostly 1 actor at a time. So it was super small, but I didn't follow, there's a lot of union rules that Hollywood has where you have to quarantine the whole crew for 2 weeks. You have to pay them during that time. And then they have to be quarantined through the whole shoot, and only certain people around on set. But that's also a lot more people they're dealing with, where, like I said, this is bare bones, small group. And actually, it's funny, in Utah, Salt Lake County is taking it a little bit more seriously than the county south, Utah County, where I live. So there's more restrictions depending on where you're at, but it's not as locked down as California for sure, but still a lot of stores and stuff you have to wear masks.
So here's obviously it's obvious that the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit is not going to happen in person because we would have had to book our hotels and stuff by this point.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about, I mean, they're going to have probably a virtual one of some sort, with training or whatever. Is Apple going to do a presentation there? Are they going to do like they've done in the past for the actual in-person ones? Is Apple going to do a virtual presentation for the Creative Summit? That's what I'll be curious about. I'm sure the announcements will be forthcoming. There's no reason to announce it now. It's not until October, it's November, whatever. And
I mean, hopefully they also, because they helped sponsor that, I believe they were a sponsor on the LumaTouch thing that there was a bunch of people part of.
Yes, yep.
And, but there was the other one too. Future Media Concept had the Apple, that's the one I'm thinking of. They had the whole Apple track
ecosystem,
that
right.
Apple made free. I'm hoping based off of that they took some notes and learned some things, because there were some hiccups with Zoom and things that didn't work out so well. And I know if it was an Apple specific event, they would want things to go a lot smoother. So I'd be interested to see what type of online interaction, live video they can actually do that recreates a little bit of that energy. But it's so hard when, I just love when there's 100 of us in a lobby and we're all in little groups and we hop from group to group.
Absolutely.
And say hi to everybody. And I don't know how you recreate that in a virtual environment. I mean, you can do chats, but they get so confusing so quick.
They're not that, in person. It's, going out, and getting up an hour earlier, going out and getting coffee and a bagel across the street, across the plaza was fantastic. You don't know who you're going to meet there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the education part of it can still be useful. I mean, you're generally sitting in there for an hour or whatever, taking notes as somebody gives a presentation. So I think that part could be useful. But then how do you recreate afterwards when they're done with their presentation? You go up and start asking questions and go to lunch or whatever. Like I just don't know how you do that. So.
You can't. I mean, the virtual thing is definitely a second best situation for that. Now, listen, the one thing I'm going to do is I probably have 20 hours, 25 hours over the last 3 or 4 creative summits that I've filmed behind the scenes, all the parties we did, and I'm going to start showing some of those around the Creative Summit. I'll come on live and show some clips and stuff. So, like the very first time we got together, Brad, in that room, when you very first started your filming, I think I filmed when Thomas Grove Carter was in there.
Yep.
I think I was filming at that point. And I have, you and I were setting it up and things. So I'm going to start showing some of that stuff so people can get an idea. And the lobbies and then the gatherings, the sessions are not what I'm really involved with. It's everything else. It's all the behind the scenes stuff.
You're talking about the room that was in the Marriott or the room that was in the NAB show floor on the side there?
The Creative Summit.
At the Creative Summit. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like, for example, 2 times ago, John Cleese was there.
Yeah.
I got a picture of him. I got a video of him walking across the lobby. He was just happened to be there that time. But I got video of the that diner we all go to over there. Le Boulanger, Le Boulanger. It's not the long. I always say that.
And R.I.P. Armadillo Willie's.
Yeah, I have pictures of us and Armadillo Willie's sitting at the table, so I have that because that's been gone for a couple of years.
COVID life feels like a bad sci-fi movie. I'm sorry.
It's a boring sci-fi movie.
It does. It's like post-apocalyptic sci-fi. I'm just dying to get out of it.
We're going to get out of it. We're going to get out of it.
Don't you hate all the ads too? We're in this together. You're like, shut up! I'm watching my show to escape this. Stop reminding me that I have to. We do curbside pickup, and we.
Well, the one good thing for me, since I work from home, is this is common now. I don't have to convince a company, hey, let me go get your media on a hard drive and I'll edit from home. It's cheaper for you. It's easier for me. I don't have to worry about parking and everything else and going into Washington or Baltimore. Now everybody does that. So that is very, very, I don't even talk about it. That's part of the deal right from the beginning.
I've had people call from California and they're like, hey, look, now that we're all working from home, I don't care where you are. Like, I'll send you work because it's no different if you were just down the street. And I think that's opened up a lot of opportunities and changed the way people. There are some definite positives to come out of it, especially in the remote workflow and the opportunities. So I'm excited for it.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to give a big thumbs up to the Final Cut Pro team on this update.
Thank you.
It's absolutely awesome. It's really a big. It's just like 10.4.4 was a big update. And there's 2 things. They got it out at the end of the summer and they got it out in August. I don't think there's ever been a big update in August for Final Cut Pro 10.
No, and here's the crazy thing about it. 10.4 over its life is probably the most well thought out professional update for Final Cut Pro that we've ever seen. And now they've raised the bar so high that 10.5 just has to be like
absolutely 10.5 now has to beat 10.4.9.
That's a tall, over the life, think about where 10.4 started with the color correction.
Sure.
And everything and how far it's developed since then.
Right.
And that update they did at NAB was a big deal. And then we felt like we didn't see a lot. We had the metal, but we had the metal improvement and now this. And I don't see anything mentioning here support for Apple Silicon. So I wonder if that's a 10.5 thing.
Well, it's at Apple Universal. It's going to support.
It's going to be universal.
It's going to be universal. It'll support Intel and Silicon both for years because Tim Cook has specifically said that they're going to make Mac OSs for Intel for years, plural. That means not just this year, the following year, for at least 2 more years.
I guess I should Google or look up the actual full release notes for.
I have that.
This update.
I have that.
Not the one that's on the App Store, right?
Yes. Everybody's just copying from what Apple has. I got it. What's new in Final Cut Pro 10? I don't know. I can't send you the link, though. Can I? Can I send it?
Maybe, but I just pulled it up. I did a Google search. I'm just curious if there's... I if there's any note about this being a universal app, or if 10.5 will be the universal app.
At the WWDC they said
they were running it on Apple Silicon, but that may not be this exact version.
no, that's true. They did not identify what version. That you're absolutely correct. They did not identify what version it was. They didn't identify anything. They just barely showed us anything. But this is I'm so thrilled with what they've done with 10.4.9.
Well, I'll
It's
let
like-
you know what happens with the libraries when I update them today.
Be careful. Be careful.
Maybe the Mac, I think the Mac Pro at least doesn't do an automatic upgrade. I'm going to save everything.
So
before.
Eric Emmerich says it's fully Apple Silicon native. I haven't seen that, but that's what he says. So.
Oh, cool.
And
Does he got it on a developer?
the little kit?
Does he have a developer kit or something? I'm just curious how to confirm that.
Well, unless there's a note somewhere that says it. But, I mean, it's
I'm
Big
not-
Sur native, yes. I've been running Final Cut Pro 10.4.8 on Big Sur Beta 2. But there's too many things in Big Sur that I'm missing that I can't stay on Big Sur. Number one is I use Little Snitch. You guys know what that is? It's an internet thing where they don't let apps go out. They can't transmit out. That's not there. Sound Source, I use that. That's not there. Hedge, I tried to use Hedge the other day. It's not there. It's not for Big Sur yet. So these are apps that I use. So I go in and try it.
Hedge is awesome. by the
Hedge
way.
is fantastic. I use it. I don't use it to its full potential. I'm just using it when I make copies of media to 2 hard drives at once.
Yeah.
And then if you update, I asked them this week on Twitter, if I add things to that folder that I'm updating and try to add it knows which things are already there and what to update. It knows from the folder, so I don't have to worry about keeping
Oh, that's
separate.
good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Well, and it also just reads it once and sends it to. You can't do that in like the Finder or whatever. It just reads the file once, sends it to multiple places. You could copy off to 4 or 5 hard drives. You can queue up multiple sources. You can tell it to transfer them all at the same time or queue them
Absolutely.
one
Absolutely.
by one. And
The only time, and
and
I
it
don't
does
know-
a checksum. And it's still
Yeah.
faster with the checksum than the Finder copy is. So it's
Right.
really impressive software.
I don't know if the new version has fixed it. The only time I use Hedge all the time. The only time I've ever had a problem with it is when I have a deep.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Well, I try not to use too many subfolders when I'm making copies, but I know exactly what you're saying. I was worried about that. And the other thing is, does it look inside of Final Cut Pro libraries? If you have a library you're adding media to, and the Hedge told me this week that that's on the to-do list. So this is fantastic. I'm just scrolling through what's new in Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, enhanced proxy workflows, social media tools, 360 video features. I don't shoot any 360. I don't care about that. Other notable features: audio crossfade, ProRes RAW camera settings such as ISO, color, temperature, exposure, offset using new controls in the inspector, sort clips by end projects, last modified date in the browser, list view. So like you said, Brad, this really raises the bar for Final Cut Pro 10.5. It really, really does. And, people keep saying, well, they're waiting on Final Cut Pro 10.5 for the Silicon. No, they're not. It's going to run on Intel as well as Silicon. I mean, Silicon, I would expect to have a couple of features maybe that the Intel doesn't have. But this is, Final Cut Pro 10.5 is absolutely going to be running on Intel. Most Final Cut Pro editors are going to be on Intel for years and years yet. But what do you think is the first Silicon Mac going to be this year? They said single Mac.
I would guess like a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's a guess because we just saw an iMac update. So I mean, maybe a redesigned iMac, but I think that would come next year. The Mac Pro I think that's going to be one of the last computers to really go over to Apple Silicon because it's such a huge investment for people anyway. And like the iMac Pro hasn't been updated. So I would think that you'd want to get it on, you'd want to, because right now I think the iPad Pro is faster than a MacBook Air. So I would see that as a logical leap, is saying, hey, we're going to give you faster performance on the MacBook Air than even the current generation iPad Pro.
Okay.
But who knows? I mean, we'll probably find out in September, right? Is when they're probably going to do an event.
Yeah, but when Apple says by year's end, they're talking about December for the Silicon Mac.
I mean, sometimes we get Mac events in October.
Yeah,
November, so.
Yeah. But then, the September one's already been, from what I've heard, been pushed to October. That's the iPhone. That's the iPhone, the first, second week of October. I'd be surprised if we saw a Silicon Mac before December. Announced, perhaps.
Yeah.
But not.
Well,
so I'm thinking the same thing, a low end.
Yeah, if it's a consumer product, then they probably will have it ready to buy then when they announce it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to run, you guys. It's so nice to see you again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play with the social media aspects of 4.9 today, so I'll let you know.
Absolutely.
I'll also let you know what happens to my libraries.
Well, back it up. Back your library up.
Yeah, I will. I got it.
Just update it. Actually, when you update libraries, doesn't it automatically do a backup before as it updates it? I swear it has.
It does. It does sometimes, but here's the thing. This version of Final Cut, I believe, goes back pre-Catalina. And if you update in an older OS, there could be a potential problem. So you got to be very, very careful. That's what I've heard.
There's an older OS.
I'm already being told I can't open up any of my libraries unless I update them on my MacBook Pro. So I'm going to go over to the Mac Pro, and I'm going to make sure that it has not. I'm going to kick myself if I had automatic updating on. Anyway, I'm going to take off, you guys. I got my conference call coming in. You have an awesome day. It was good to see you.
Absolutely, Serena.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I got to range it again. Range the layout one more time just till we get done here. Yeah, I'm going to be excited. I'm working on some documentaries right now, so a couple of the proxy thing is just huge. The audio crossfade, it's a simple thing, but here's the problem for that Aussie guy that causes all the problems. No dupe detection. Yeah.
It's coming in 10.5 along with a roles-based mixer. So
yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure there's going to be some great things in 10.5. But like you said, this has really raised the bar for 10.5. So 10.5 looks even bigger because I was kind of expecting the proxy thing to be in 10.5, and here it is in 10.49. I've been calling 10.4 Grandpa Final Cut Pro because it's 32 months old at this point. Listen, Grandpa just got a shot of adrenaline. Okay. Right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, as far as a single kind of dot release version, this one over the life of 10.4 has seen the most robust growth, especially for professionals and especially focused. Everything really has been focused on workflow from the beginning. So I'm very impressed with what they've done.
Absolutely. I am too. All right, I think we're going to head out. Do you have anything else to say to the audience?
Not at the moment, other than I think my kid's been screaming, so I got to go check on her.
Make sure she's
That's not
okay.
the audience, so I probably got to make sure my kids are alive.
All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. I am going to delve more into what's going on with Final Cut Pro, and I'll probably be back later this week. If Brad, if you want to join, you certainly can. You just message me.
Okay.
As we see what's going on with Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. Grandpa Final Cut Pro has got a shot of adrenaline. It's going to make it across the finish line until 10.5 comes out.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Have a nice update. Absolutely. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you later. Oh, follow along at Richard Taylor TV. Right below there, youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV. Facebook, the same. Twitter, all that stuff. And that you'll be notified when I go live again. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it.